Hi, I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about negative thinking and how that affects us and things that we can do to change our negative thoughts. So we all have them, and usually they're not very accurate. And in psychology, these are called cognitive distortions. Here on this sheet, they call it stupid thoughts. So some examples are up here at the top. Of course, I messed this up. I always find a way to ruin things. And then this one says, he only complimented me to be polite. No one actually thinks that about me. And then this one over here, she still has not replied to my message. She must be mad at me. So these are examples of things that we say to ourselves. And these kind of thoughts can be painful and they happen quickly. We don't even realize that we're having the thoughts. And we don't question them. They just become a part of what goes through our mind on a regular basis. It becomes kind of a habit, and that's what we start to believe about ourselves. So these can lead to anxiety and depression. They can lead to damaging your self-esteem, affecting just your overall mood, affects your relationships with other people. But there is a way to change that. You have to notice the thoughts and stop them when they're happening. And here's an example of what they say to do. You could identify the thought and then write it down, put on a sticky note or just on a piece of paper that you can cut out. And then you're going to write down something more positive or compassionate, maybe something you would say to a friend if your friend was saying these things. And then you can post the notes in your room, in the bathroom, wherever it is that you're going to see it on a regular basis to help remind yourself to change the thought to something more positive and more accurate. So some examples of our cognitive distortions are stupid thoughts. There's one type called all or nothing thinking, and that's when you see things in black and white. So it's either all good or all bad. There's no gray in between. It's just one of those extremes. Something has to be perfect or you're a failure. An example would be, I'm always a horrible mother. I'm never going to get it together. That's somebody can make that statement and it's most likely not true. They may have done something horrible or made a mistake, and that's what they're dwelling on at the moment, but that doesn't mean that they're a horrible parent altogether. Another type of cognitive distortion is overgeneralization, and that's taking a single event and making conclusions based on that one event. An example is, my best friend is mad at me. I'm sure she doesn't want to be friends with me ever again. And we know in reality, people can get into arguments and work through it and still be friends. But in the moment, sometimes we tell ourselves things like this, that the person's mad at us and that means like they're never going to want to talk to us again. The third thing is negative mental filter. You pick out a single negative detail and you dwell on it, ignoring all the positive or neutral things that might have happened. So if you were in a meeting or you're in class and you may have been participating in class the whole time, but then you say one thing that comes out wrong and you feel really stupid, like you're an idiot, and you think other people are laughing at you, and you dwell on that one thing instead of all the great comments and input you had for the rest of the class. Discounting the positive. That's when you ignore the good things that happen and insist that they don't count because there were other circumstances. This allows your brain to stay in a pattern of negative thinking. So an example of that would be, no one will ever love me. So if you don't, no matter what somebody tells them, like, we love you, or, if you say, I don't have any friends, well, these people are your friends. You can point out who they are, and the person still wants to focus on the fact that they think they don't have any friends or nobody likes them. Jumping to conclusions. You assume that something bad will happen or that someone will have negative feelings toward you, even though you don't have any evidence to support that thought. So you're late to work and you think that your boss is going to be mad at you. Or trying to think of another example. Say you get home late coming back from a friend's house and you're sure that your parents going to ground you, so you don't even bother talking and trying to explain what happened that made you late. You just jump to that conclusion that you're going to get in trouble, so you don't even talk to them about it. There are two subtypes of this jumping to conclusions. One is mind reading. You assign negative thoughts and feelings to other people, even when there are other logical explanations for what happened. So you may think, like, my neighbor rushed by me and didn't even acknowledge me. I must have done something wrong. So somebody else could actually just be in a hurry. They could have an emergency. You don't know what's going on in that person's life. But if they rush by you and don't speak, then you assume that they're mad at you, or you've done something to irritate them. The other type is fortune telling, when you assume that things are going to turn out badly and you treat negative outcomes as eventualities, not possibilities. So you're treating the bad thing as like, this is going to be definitely going to be the outcome for what's going to happen, not just a possible thing that could happen. So an example could be, I submitted my application, but I already know they won't call me back for an interview. You don't know that that's going to happen, but you're already trying to tell the future by saying that you're definitely not going to get an interview. Another example of a cognitive distortion is catastrophizing, it's hard to say, or minimizing. Catastrophizing is when you exaggerate the importance of things that you do, like making a mistake at work, or that someone else does, that someone got a better office than you. Minimizing is the opposite, when you discount the importance of something that actually was very important. So an example of this catastrophic thinking is, why did I use that word in that email? I'm sure I'm going to get fired. Or it could be, maybe you sent a text to somebody and you're thinking, why did I say it this way? They're going to be mad at me and not want to talk to me. Or if it's somebody you're dating, they're going to break up with me. Minimizing the example could be that you got a really good grade on a test, and instead of giving yourself credit for working hard and studying, you act like it's just no big deal, or that they gave it to you because the teacher was in a good mood that day or something. Emotional reasoning is another type of cognitive distortion. You assume that just because you felt something, it's true. It's relying too strongly on your gut instinct. So if you feel like you're ugly one day, then you just decide that that's a fact, that you must really be ugly. Then there is should statements. You focus on how things should have gone or should have been rather than how they actually are. When you direct should statements toward others, you can feel anger, frustration, and resentment. Examples of that would be, I should really exercise more. I'm so gross. Or my brother should have talked to me before he made any decisions about where our family is going. He is so inconsiderate. So we don't always know what other people are thinking, but sometimes we think about what they should have done, kind of putting our own values and opinions on them. Let's see. The next one is labeling. This is an extreme form of overgeneralization. You take a situation, a one-time event, a misunderstanding or an accident, and you determine it must be out of your character or their character. Like, that person seemed like they liked me, but then I'm telling myself, no, they didn't like me. I'm a nobody. There's no way they could like me. Or somebody does something to irritate you, that they push past you in the hallway and bump into you, and you automatically start labeling that person as a jerk, when maybe something really bad had just happened, and that's why they were acting that way, not because they were trying to be mean to you or irritate you. And sometimes we jump to our own conclusions without really knowing what all's going on with the other person. Then there is personalization. You take on the responsibility for negative events, ignoring how other people or factors may have contributed. So if your boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you, you assume they broke up with you because you're not a good person to date, that you did something wrong that ruined the relationship. Whereas, it takes two people to make a relationship successful and happy. So there's probably other things that contributed to it, not strictly something you did. The last one is blaming. It's the opposite of personalization. You lay the blame on other people completely without thinking about, what you did wrong or what your responsibility in the situation was. An example is our project is slowed down because they never made a point to contact me. This is all their fault. So I know I've heard people before say that they weren't doing well in a class because the teacher doesn't like them, or the teacher's always in a bad mood and just takes it out on them. So, there could possibly be some level of truth to that, but for the most part, the student needs to take responsibility for what they're doing in the class. They're the ones earning the grades, not the teacher. So, it's possible to get a teacher that's bad at teaching a certain subject. Maybe he needs to teach it in a different way, but you can't put the blame completely on somebody else. So those are different examples of cognitive distortions. And then I have this other sheet to show you. Let's see, is this it? Nope, that's not it. Okay, well, I don't see it. Okay, somehow I lost it. There we go. Let's see if I can pull this up now. Share screen. Here we go. So these are some examples of our thoughts that we can have. When we're talking to ourselves, we refer to that as self-talk. And a lot of times our self-talk is full of these negative thoughts that we were just going over. So these are some examples. I'm not good at this. Well, maybe you could look at it differently and think, well, what am I missing? Just because you're struggling with something doesn't mean you can't learn it. You might just need to look at it a different way or have somebody else explain it to you. If you say, I give up, sometimes you might need to rethink that and try thinking, well, I have some strategies I've learned that I could try. If you think something is too hard, you're telling yourself you can't do it, it's just too hard. So maybe you need to reframe that and think, well, I can do it, but it's just going to take some time and some more effort than what I've been putting into it. I can't make this any better. So in reality, we can always improve and we can keep trying until things are better. So if we focus on that instead of just focusing on where we're messing up and feeling like giving up, then we're going to be more successful, more positive. I just can't do math. If you instead think, I'm going to train my brain to do math, I might have to study it a little more than other people, but I can learn it. She's so smart, I will never be that smart. And maybe you could think, I'm going to figure out things that she does to study or ways that she takes notes that helps her, and I can keep trying and I may do just as well as she does. You may just say, oh, that's good enough when you're doing something and not really want to put that much effort into it. But you could reframe it to be more positive to say, is it really my best work? Maybe you could work a little harder on it. So you may say, you may have a plan for something and it doesn't work out, and you just say, well, that didn't work, you know. Instead of just focusing on the negative of how that turned out, you can focus on the fact that there's lots of other options or other ways to do things. You can come up with a new plan. So these are just a few examples of how to change your thinking to something more positive. So, and as I showed you on the other worksheet, you could always write down your thought in like a little thought bubble, little cloud, and then write it down again in a more positive light, where you reframe it to keep yourself thinking more encouraging thoughts. And you can stick it up somewhere if it's on a sticky note, or tape it up if it's on other paper, and just have it in a place where you're going to see it on a regular basis. And you could, that way would help remind you not only to rephrase that comment that you make to yourself, but maybe any other negative comments that you have. It will help you to keep thinking of stopping those negative thoughts and trying to focus on something more positive. So I hope that helps, and we'll see you next time.